So this little masterpiece is about a few of our favorite things, and I love to draw art supplies. I love to paint art supplies. I love to use art supplies. I love to buy art supplies. I think you're probably got real similar feelings to that. So this is what we're going to do, is draw the things that we're using, and we're using a pencil and paintbrush and an ink pen of some kind. You're probably not using a dip pen, but it's just more fun to draw than a regular fine liner. So how do we start? We start by getting ourselves the lines that are going to guide our placement here so that we don't end up way off one side or the other and our piece ends up balanced. And so to do that, we're going to start with finding the center. And if your paper is cut a little bit off, like you can see mine is here, then kind of adjust for it if you can. And then make a mark right at 1 inch, because this is a 2-inch piece of paper. And I'm going to turn this sideways and eyeball that is straight up and down. If you want, you can find this mark on both sides. And that will make it, you know, for sure that we have an even thing going on. I'm putting the lightest guideline there. And then I am going to divide each half in half, which would be each half 1 inch. And so the mark would be at 1/2 inch right there. And likewise over here, you're going to see how helpful this is going to be to us. All right. And then put in my parallel guideline. We're going to leave those there while we work with things. I don't have really a top of my paper yet, but we're going to start upside down from what the finished product is. And right here, we're going to make a teardrop, right, evenly on this line. Now, the cool thing, though, is that it doesn't have to be even. We don't have to be symmetrical. It's going to be nice if it points straight down, but if it's a little off on one side or the other, you know, paintbrushes bend their hairs, so that's perfectly fine. Then we're going to put a line a little bit slanted, not totally parallel to our guideline, on each side of our guideline, like this. And this is the ferrule of the brush. It's the metal thing that holds the hairs in. And then how much handle will still show. And these should be about equal on each side of your guideline, and that's going to keep things from being too wonky. There'll always be some wonky, but we can minimize it sometimes just by thinking things through. All right, and I'm going to turn it around now, and the other line I'm going to make on the paintbrush is one where it's been dipped in paint, because that's just going to be fun. Over here, we're going to put a pencil, and we don't want them all to land at the same place because it's just not interesting. So on my example here, the point of the pencil ends about the top of the paint here. And so we'll make a dot right there. And then we're going to make a V from that dot. And it's going to go a little ways up in the ferrule there. And from the end of each side of the V, we add a parallel line to our center line. So far, so good. This pencil has been sharpened, and so its paint job is going to leave a jagged line across it. And down where the lead, which isn't really lead, it's graphite, down where that meets the wood, another jagged line. So look, you know, moving right ahead. We're really doing our thing today. Over here is our pen. And I want it sort of by where the pencil is, but not exact. I'm going to put the dot of the tip right there. Then I'm going to turn around upside down again and make myself another teardrop. Teardrops are just such a good shape that we can use for so many things. All right, and when I turn back around, I'm going to put a little neck on my teardrop. And down here, starting from the point, I'm going to do a very skinny loop. And that's kind of a representation of what the point of a dip pin is. And then this handle of the tip inserts into a pin body. And so we put a little horizontal line there and put the body of our dip pin. You can make that kind of rounded, whatever looks good to you. And then we are going to get rid of our guidelines where we do not need them. And I am going to ink my drawing and come back to painting. I want you to notice, though, that you're going to keep your guideline on your pencil. And the reason is that the pencil has planes, and that line will actually be there. I got my inking done, and I'm going to add just a couple of little hair marks on my brush. And make sure that they curve along with the shape of the brush. They can't be straight lines. And I goofed up a few things. This should be straighter. This should be a little rounder. And sometimes I'll try to fix that with a little heavier ink line. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. However, I have decided on a yellow ochre for a background. And the background painting strategy is going to be interesting. We're going to use our yellow ochre. I better back out here. Our yellow ochre. And my strategy is going to be twofold. It's going to be a number 4 brush instead of a number 2. So it'll hold a little more paint. And I'm going to do 2, 3, 4 vertical passes. Okay, I'll be holding a lot of water in the brush, and I can do this and do this and do this before I run into drying time. Now, you can move slower than I. As I say a million times, your situation regarding humidity is probably very different than mine. So I'm just making enough of my milk consistency there and getting some more water on my brush. And then holding these guys is also fun. I'm going to figure that out here. And get the color on as quickly as I can, coming all the way down to the bottom. And I have excess. And then I'm going to come down here and meet that. You have to have pretty good aim. All right, like so. Get back in, get more paint. Come down this one. You see what's happening is nothing is allowed to get dry. And so that the new wetness would back up into it and make those yucky lines that you get when you can't get a smooth background. It's so nice working on a small size like this, because on a larger size, you can imagine the problem is just much greater. That's when you get out your masking fluid and your huge brush. Hopefully that's going to dry nice and smooth for us. Now that my background is dry, I'm choosing to deal with my neutrals first. I have 3 neutral areas on here. 2 are metal, the ferrule of the brush. the pen tip, and one is lead, which can be the same gray, only used darker. I really love a gray by Sennelier, which is called Just Like Gray, and it's so nice and cold that it does a wonderful job on anything that has to be believable as metal. And it lifts beautifully, so I can get a highlight right even on the lead of the pencil. Nice, right? Now, a little more water. It is a powerful color, so you really have to water it down if you're going to do a lighter kind of thing, like the ferro would be lighter than the graphite in the pencil. And so I've added more water to the color here. And then I'm going to lift a highlight on this side over here. Just subtle. We don't have any bright light shining here. And this will work just as well, about the same strength for the nib on the pen. Now the shape of this is a little different, and so it's going to, this is a neck that's tucked in, and this is raised up a little. And so I'm going to put the highlight right in there. Right where we can see that it's raised up and catching more light than the rest of it. So that takes care of my 3 neutrals. And I'm choosing my color scheme, or I chose it already, as you can see, based on the color of the 3H pencil being a turquoise. So my highlight is on this side. The light's coming from over here. And so that means that this will be the lighter side of the pencil this time. So I'm not going to go too heavily on that panel. This is a flat area on the pencil plane, and so the light is hitting this more than this side, which is going to turn away from it a little bit. I decided on my bright red for both the handle of the brush and the paint that's on the brush. And there's a reason for that, because it just, I tried the other 2 colors. I put it in Procreate and played around, and it just didn't work. It didn't have the balance that it needed. So, but before I do the red on here, I'm going to put our other neutral in, and that is the color of the lead and the color of the hairs of the brush. And I'm going for a raw sienna, and this one is a Daniel Smith. It's called Monte Amiata, I think. It's a wonderful one. But I don't want it to be very dark, but I do want it to contrast with this background, because the color yellow ochre and raw sienna are extremely close. So it's going to be about being lighter so that you look like the wood of this pencil and like the hairs in this brush. Now we could leave it darker because we can see the difference, but a pencil lead is not that dark. So I'm going to pick this right back up on the brush. I'll leave the brush a little darker because that can be true, but the pencil lead's going to be pretty darn light, so I'm going to come back and make it show up against the background by being lighter. That's a wonderful color for lifting too, as you can see. And because these are wet, I'm going to move over to my pen, and that's a arbitrary color. But I chose my green that I like so much, my green gold from Daniel Smith. And we have a green pen body. Now, when I pick my highlight up here, I need to make sure I'm keeping to the same light source here. So it's going to be on the left side. To echo what's going on these other things. And now we're closing in, and I'm going to put my deeper turquoise picked up a little more color on this side, and I'm not going to leave it that much of a difference, but instead of going in water and then blotting my brush and going back to pick up, I didn't go in the water, and I just blotted it and came back to lift, and that, as you see, allows, it doesn't wash it out as much. It allows the color to stay pretty strong, and that's what we wanted, because this gets less light than this. And we are almost done with our art supply masterpiece. I'm going back to bright red, which I've used for so many things here. That's a Sennelier color too. And all right. So highlight has to do the same thing as on the other two round things in the same light source. So it's going to be on that side there. And finally, I'm going to make my paint match. Now you can do anything you want, but you know how you're doing something and then you just got a feeling and you go, that's not right. And when I get that, I usually will take a picture with my iPad and put that piece of art into Procreate and switch some colors around and see. So there is our turnaround. If you want to, they can be like this, or they can be standing up. But there is our art supply masterpiece.